ourselves. We can watch movies, we can listen to music, we can watch TV shows. So it's just like hanging out with your family. Over. Some people do feel a little sick when they first get into space. It's called space adaptation sickness, but definitely don't ever feel suffocated. Like I say, it's a pretty big space, and I feel pretty good all the time. Over. Anthony, excellent question. Radiation is a huge problem. Luckily, because we're still within the Earth's magnetic field, we are pretty well protected. We do have some shielding on outside of the station, but, radiation can be a problem. Over. Rashmi, I have not ever seen an extraterrestrial creature. That would be pretty cool if I did. The only suspicious activity I see is when my crewmates are acting weird. Over. Nuki, there are health risks. Radiation is a risk, one of the ones that we have. Also, when you're in space, because there's no gravity, you're always losing your bone density, and so you can end up with brittle bones if you don't exercise every day. We've also discovered that some people's eyesight is affected when they're in space. So there's definitely things that can cause problems for the human body. Over. Zachary, awesome question. That is a question that I cannot answer. I do not study things like that. We need some really smart physicists and mathematicians to tell us that. But I suspect it'll take a long time because we haven't discovered it yet. Over. Space debris can affect the ISS in two ways. One, if it's really small, it might just make a small mark on the station and not really hurt us. But the bigger stuff, it could definitely be a problem because it could puncture a hole in the station. There are people on the ground that monitor the larger pieces of space debris, and if anything is going to get too close to the space station, we actually fire our engines and move the station out of the way. Over. Eugene, radiation is more harmful to astronauts in two kind of different situations. One, if you're around the Earth, there's a place called the South Atlantic Anomaly. This is where the magnetic field of the Earth is a little bit different, and it exposes astronauts to more radiation. The other place is if you're outside the magnetic sphere of the Earth. So if you're on your way to the Moon or you're on the way to Mars, you're going to get more radiation, and that's a problem. Over. That's a very interesting question because I don't find fire to be particularly scary, and I think it's because we train so much on the ground. We've got very good procedures on what to do when there is a fire. We've got fire extinguishers all over the space station, and we've got gas masks to protect us from any harmful chemicals that may be created if there is a fire. But mostly, we design the space station and send up materials to the space station that aren't going to easily catch on fire. Over. I hope we can use it for longer than it's currently scheduled. Right now, it's scheduled to be decommissioned in 2028. But if we do more analysis, engineering analysis, we can certify it to stay up longer, and I suspect that's what's going to happen. So I think we'll have the space station well into the 2030s. Over. Omar, just like on the ground, benefits of exercising is staying healthy. And like I said, you can lose your bone density, and exercise is the #1 way that we keep our bones fit in space. The last thing you want to have happen when you come back to Earth is break your leg because your bones aren't strong. Over. Otis, yes, great question. We've got 3 exercise devices on the space station: an exercise bike, a treadmill, and a magical machine that does the equivalent of lifting weights. Of course, we don't lift weights in space because the things don't weigh anything up here, but we push against resistance. So each day we do 2 things. We always lift weights, and then we do 1 cardio machine, either running on the treadmill or riding on the exercise bike. Over. You would think it wouldn't smell too good, but actually we've got air scrubbers that keep the atmosphere pretty clean. So any smells, say from eating your food or when your crewmates don't change their shirts after working out and they're kind of stinky, that stuff goes away really quickly. So really it's just like being inside an office building. It doesn't smell like much of anything at all. Over. Azine, that's interesting. You know, I wish we could have a shower, but there is no running water up here for a shower like that. So when you brush your teeth or wash your teeth, you gotta take extra water out of your. And it's a lot longer process to do things like brushing your teeth and certainly to wash your hair. Over. Watch me. I was quite young. I was 4 years old when we first landed people on the moon. My parents took me out in the backyard, pointed to the moon, and said, "We've got people there now." And I thought that was just the best idea ever. So ever since I was young, I wanted to be an astronaut. Over. Well, Vanuki, you know, there's all kinds of information on the internet about the ISS. But basically, it's a big structure that has been put together by an international group, and that's why it's called the International Space Station. And so we've got astronauts up here from lots of different countries. Right now we've got 2 Russian cosmonauts, 3 American astronauts, and a Japanese astronaut. So it's a place that we all come up here and we do science for researchers on the ground. Over. Zachary, not to my knowledge. I do not think warp speed has been invented, and if it has, then nobody's telling anybody. Right now I think it's only in the movies, but boy would that be great if it did exist. Over. You know, we have a saying up here, space is where the difficult things are easy and the easy things are difficult. So things like I was saying before, brushing your teeth, washing your hair, it's much more complicated in space just because you don't have gravity. You've got to take care with everything you do. But then other things like moving big heavy objects around, very easy in space because they just have mass and they don't really have any weight. Other things you can do up here, when you're working on something, it's very easy to change to another position to get at what you need to do. So you don't always have to work in the vertical like you do on the ground. Over. Krishna, excellent question. At first when people went into space, doctors weren't sure, but we know now that the human body works just like it does on the ground, and so most medicines and things